Hey, thanks for joining us today. And today we're going to do these cute little planters. They're rustic planters, and I put down in the comments where you could grab a kit of your own. You want to get some Elmer's Stick Fast CA thick glue, and when your kit comes, you'll want to assemble it. So you can see kind of how I'm assembling it here. Just make sure that you're getting the edges really well. We'll just be assembling the 5 pieces there, and the front pieces we'll put on a little bit later. Then go ahead and assemble the other 2. Next, I grabbed some dark walnut Minwax, and I went ahead and stained all 3 boxes. So once I stained those, I just set them inside of each other and put them aside. I then took the rusted pipe, it's from Folk Art, and I applied with a makeup sponge just lightly over the top of that piece, and then the drawer pull itself, I did the top and the bottom because that will show. After finishing the first one, I just moved on to the second and then the third, so just repeat the process. After finishing those, I grabbed the burnt umber, also from Folk Art, and I did the front of each box. So what's nice about these kits is that even when you paint over it, you can still see where you need to place your piece. So when you're painting, just make sure you paint just the front side of these, because you will actually be adhering them later to the front of the boxes that you stained earlier. Before you proceed, you just want to make sure that all your paint is dry. I then used some petroleum jelly or some Vaseline if you have it, and took a makeup sponge and went around the edges and different spots where I did not want the next layer of paint to adhere. As you'll see, I did this to all pieces. Next up was I took Country Twill, which is from Folk Art as well, and with my makeup sponge, I went over those 3 square pieces. After finishing those 3 pieces with the Country Twill, I did go ahead and take the burnt umber that I had used on the front of the boxes, and I applied it to each of the pulls. Before the next step, you just want to make sure that everything is really dry. On this step, this is where your rustic look starts to take place. So you'll take a scraper, you can use a metal. In this case, I have just a little old Cricut scraper that I used, and just go over the edges, go over the front of each piece, and where you applied the wax is where the paint should be removed from. For the smaller pieces, you'll see that I just used a mini sander, and you can pick up one of these in your local hardware store. I think even Walmart, Amazon carries those. They come in so handy. Next, I wanted to add linen by Folk Art, but first I want to make sure that I go ahead and added just a little bit more petroleum jelly around, because I want to make sure that I keep that rustic look going. So I then applied the linen to the front side of the already scraped surface. I then grabbed my air gun and made sure that all those pieces were dry before I started scraping again. Basically, what I wanted to achieve here was a very rustic, weathered look, and I think it adds a little dimension, so you can see that Country Twill and then you can see the linen kind of both popping from both of those. So I really love that look. Before going to the next step, I did go ahead and just slightly sand each of those 3 top surfaces. I wanted spring colors, so for the first color I chose by Folk Art Mossy Meadow, and so I am not applying any more of the wax at this point. I feel like there's probably enough on there, so just went ahead and covered with a good, nice coverage. The next color that I chose was French Lilac, and it's also from Folk Art, and I applied it to the small square. The last color I chose was Warm Bisque by Folk Art, and that was applied to the middle square-sized box. It is then time to make sure that everything was dry once again, and I found that in this next step that it was much easier just to use the small mini sander, so that's what I did. So you can see that I went over all the pieces very thoroughly with the mini sander, so they're really looking cute. In this video you can't really tell, but it's pretty cool. When I was sanding, there was so many different dimensions because of the different layers that we did with the scraping, so I really love the rustic look that it's giving. After getting the front done, what I did was I went ahead and sanded the edges of the project just to make sure that it was nice and clean. Y'all, I did have to go ahead and line everything up and just see how it was looking because I was very curious. It's looking good. Next, I took some Distress ink. It's walnut stain color, and went around all the edges pretty heavily. As you can see, it does distress them quite well, and we even went over to the front of the projects, and I really love the look that the distress ink gives. I even did the smaller pieces to make sure that they looked even more distressed as well. After going over it with the walnut stain distress ink, I did grab it's called Rusty Hinge Distress Oxide, and went over the project with the little ink blender brush there. You can see, especially the hinges, I think the pulls really made them pop with looking very rusty. I did add to the edges of the project the wood pieces as well, and really made sure that I added it here and there to give that rust effect. After the front of the boxes got where I would like them, I did take the walnut stain and went around the edges of each of the box, and then I went and took the rusty hinge, and you can see that I'm adding and blending both to make them look very aged and that they've been around a while. After getting it all aged the way that you want and your box looking the way you want, then what the last step is here is to go ahead and glue that in place. With these kits, it's really nice because you can see the laser cut lines. They're just a little indentions, so you can line them up really nicely, as I did there, and make sure that you can even see the laser lines where you need to put your little pull handle. So pretty cool. After you're happy with your first box, basically start on another box and repeat the process. I wanted to let you know that you can take a dry brush as well, and that's what I did in some of this, is take the rusted pipe that we initially used and dry brushed some on the corners to make it maybe stand out a little bit better, blend it with the blending brush, and then it's a process. You just make sure that you get it the way you like it and the way you want it to look rusty. After you get that box completed, go ahead and glue your pieces in place, and you're starting to really have a lot of cuteness there. So we're to the last box here, and you guys are probably going to start becoming very confident about your your rusting and your different techniques, that this will go probably a little bit quicker than your first two. So just follow along here as I finish up mine. So as this project is winding down, because you can see that I have got my rust the way I want it and I'm gluing the last pieces to my project, I just wanted to let you guys know that pick out your own colors, do your own variation of it. You could even add Mod Podge to the front of those and some neat prints, so get creative and have fun with it. I really do love how these turned out. I'm going to show you how each of them look up close. And I feel like they really do capture just kind of a rustic old planter that's been around a while. Of course, these are for decorative purposes only. I'm sure you could maybe put live plants in them, but what I opted to do was go and find some nice, of course, on sale greenery, and I made 3 little planters that I will use for the Easter and spring decorating. Thanks everyone for watching, and be sure to check the comments for the affiliate link to get you a kit and have some crafting fun.